Yeah.
I really, really like this movie. I went into it thinking this is going to be a mind-numbing, thought-provoking film. And I think that's exactly what it is. Like, if you're expecting, like, any Joker you've ever, like, that you've seen in the past, I'd say stop right now, because you're not getting a Joker like anything you've ever seen before. I would say this is the most different character that DC has ever done. I really like Joaquin Phoenix's acting in this movie. It's top-notch. Like, I would not be surprised if he got nominated for an Academy Award. I really wouldn't. Like, just because of, like, the message the film conveys about, like, mental awareness and stuff like that. Like, I could see him being at least recognized in some capacity. Like, I really liked the story element of it. I thought giving the Joker an origin was going to be something that I couldn't really get behind because in the comics he doesn't really have an origin. In Killing Joke he says it best, if I had an origin I would prefer it to be multiple choice. So I'm just like, in my head canon, I'm like, this is just Joker sitting down in an asylum telling how he became the Joker, but he tells a different story every day. Like, I don't know.
Just like, are you talking about just like the Joker's backstory, like in general in the comics?
Right, like, because we don't really know like what Joker's real backstory is. So when they announced, oh, we're gonna do a Joker movie, I was like, I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, we kind of do.
Yeah, but like,
not in the movie. In the comics, we know.
We kind of do, but like, it's never been like super delved into, has it? Really?
Recent.
Like, well, like the couple years, like the 3 Joker thing,
and gave all 3 the origin. Anyway, we'll get into that. Yeah, but that was controversial as is to give Joker a backstory,
right? And like a lot of people kind of like the mystery of the Joker and everything. Like nobody knows who he is, and that's kind of where I am on it. So like when they were like, oh, we're gonna do a film on this one guy's origin, and like I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. And then this movie came out, and I was like, I was blown away. Like I did not think I was going to relate to this film like in any way whatsoever. I was like, the acting in this movie is phenomenal. I loved it. Yeah. Anyway, like I thought all the acting was good. I couldn't think of really a weak character in the movie. Like I thought everybody did fine. The acting was good. I thought the pacing was well done. There was only one scene that I was like, you don't really need that, but like it's so brief.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah. And I'm just like, okay, like, it's good. The violence felt really intense when it, like, got to that point. I was like, wow, this is not like anything I've seen in a superhero movie or a comic book movie. I felt like I was watching, like, an old noir gangster film or something, like, with the way people would, like, have violence in their films. Like, I think they said that they were trying to convey, like, old Martin Scorsese and like Francis Coppola films like that, like Godfather and Taxi Driver. They were going for that kind of feel, and they definitely got that.
Yeah.
So much so to the point where people are like, "Oh, this movie goes too far in some places." I'm like, I don't really know about that. Like, I enjoyed it. So
you fresh off of seeing it, Ryan. Seeing it 2 hours ago.
Yeah. So this is definitely a roller coaster kind of movie, but not like super emotional on like happy to sad. It's like super dark to sad to super dark to sad. There's a few glimmers of hope, I guess, but not to spoil anything. But and then it's like, and then it goes back. So I think the first half of the movie, if you're a wishful thinker in the movie, you're just anytime there's anything. But I think the emotion side of it definitely pulls you back and forth quite a bit, which I'm like a happy movie guy or an action movie guy, so when I get into a sad, like, dark movie, sometimes I'm like, this is rough. And now, I will say, in the movie theater, there was one guy that literally laughed almost the whole time. There was like a lot of like those weird moments where it was like kind of a joke, but kind of not, and you wouldn't normally laugh at that. But there was one guy that was literally laughing at everything.
There were parts where I had uncomfortable laughter in my theater, I think.
Yeah, but so I think the movie did really well on capturing the emotion of like the unstableness of the Joker. I think there's a few scenes that I can't spoil, but you're like, okay, is he gonna do it or is he not? and that you get a lot of tension from that, and I think they capture that because you're like, okay, he could literally go either way, kind of on what he's gonna do. You don't know if he's really thinking good or bad at that moment. I think the unique thing about him laughing, they capture that quite a bit throughout the whole movie.
Right, like they make it like a
yes, and they make that a huge thing. I think they go from the beginning all the way to the end in a very good. If you watch the first probably 5 minutes to the last 5 minutes, you see both sides of the Joker within the first 5 minutes of the movie to the last 5 minutes of the movie, and you could literally base that movie off of each of those 5 minutes, which I think that's really good in a movie because you're still capturing the emotion, but you brought him through a whole journey of one side, what used to be, to what he is now, basically, and how that can all change with just a few little things happening the wrong way. So I think it does have a clear message with society now, I think, which a lot of these movies currently are doing that, and usually it gets, what Zach was kind of saying, people open that with welcome arms. His acting was, I think, really great. I mean, I don't think anybody can argue with that. This is a different type of character, so I think also the body prep, he looks like
he lost like 52 pounds.
Yeah, everything you
like
see
that.
where it's like where his body looks weird, it was all natural. Like he did all that himself.
So, and I figured that was kind of one of those things where he goes through some crazy diet kind of thing. So he definitely put his body through a toll, kind of like Heath Ledger to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, protect him, kind of thing at this point.
Yeah, make sure that
he's like, okay,
checked up on and taken care of.
Yeah, because this was a lot darker than Heath Ledger's performance, I think, and just it captured, a lot of dark things. I do like, not to spoil anything, but I like the perspectives that they swing back and forth because you almost believe certain things.
Yeah.
And then it swings it back another way. And you're like,
it's like you have expectation and reality.
Exactly. So there's a little bit of that flip-flopping around. So sometimes you see something, you're like, oh, that's just a different perception or different take on something. So I really enjoyed that because then it helps you get into his mind a little bit more. And so I think they capture that really well. Obviously, there's not a straight villain in this. Brandon's looking at me like there is.
It'll be. I'll let you finish.
Yeah. So, and you're like, well, Joker's the villain kind of thing, but in this movie, it really isn't that. And you can make several cases on who or what the.
I think what you're trying to say is that it's not like really black and white.
Well,
like,
yeah,
unlike the characters.
and I think you can interpret things differently. So, and the movie even does that very well itself. Is like, okay, you've got people looking at him both different ways, and that's how his origin starts. The last couple things just to mention, I love the connections, especially towards the end. With this isn't really a spoiler.
If it's, it's up to you if you've.
Yeah. Obviously we're in Gotham, so Wayne...
Yeah, the Waynes play a role to an extent. They're mentioned and you'll...
I do like the connection there, because it gets you back to at least, okay, we know something before the Joker.
Right.
And it gives somebody, that isn't a huge comic nerd or anything, but that, appreciates the Joker, which is a lot of people. You see Harley Quinn, Joker things all the time, but...
I'd say Batman is probably just as recognizable as the Joker at this point. I would argue that.
What do you mean the other way? The Joker's as
recognizable
as Batman.
Yeah.
I was like,
okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Anyways, I really liked. I think there's probably a lot of little hidden things that I probably didn't spot if I had a guess in a movie like this. But it was even the lighting, the tone, and everything. Very dark. It kind of actually reminds me a little bit of John Wick, which we kind of mentioned that just on the the color tones.
I can see that.
Because, there's really no bright spots.
Like the lighting,
but when you notice when he is happy or when he shows that something's good, the lighting and everything around
It's a lot more
him,
yellow than green.
Yes.
Yeah, I
There's
noticed
a
that.
brighter tones to it. So I think there's a lot of work put into it. I think that they took a lot of time. I think his performance is great. There's really nobody else's performances that were in there long enough for me to really just
Yeah, and
appreciate.
that was kind of
It's a strange
yeah.
it's a strange like dynamic because you get to follow him. And there's
Right,
really
he's
no like
He's in like
other
98% of the
thing-
movie.
Yeah, and,
Compared to everybody else.
yeah,
I don't know if there's a single scene
Without
without
where
him.
he's,
Yeah.
where he's not in it. Well, actually, that's not true, but that's a spoiler. So,
Well,
We'll get to it.
yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, like, yeah, that's a weird thing because it's like normally you're like, well, here's all the supporting actors, but I mean,
They're-
realistically, his mom was like the only other character that was in it.
and she didn't really like.
She had a couple scenes.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, talking about it's weird thinking about that.
Yeah, actually.
There's
didn't
I mean, there's
even piece
just
that
really
together in
like
my mind when I was
it's like,
watching it.
and you talk about the mayor the mayor was like mentioned several times. I won't go into too much.
Well, they
Just
talk about they
bored.
talk about the mayor and then people running for mayor, and so like there's a lot of debate
Right,
on
like, there's-
that too. Yeah.
I would say like
But that's
Robert De
almost-
Niro's
it's-
character and then his mom are like the only real supporting
And,
characters.
Yeah.
in the
and it's
film.
like the scenes. I mean, he gets what 4 scenes maybe.
De
and
Niro,
De
yeah,
Niro.
like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Probably like 4 or 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thinking about
He has like clips. There's like one where he has like a small clip kind of thing, but it's like.
yeah, but I mean, it's whatever. We'll get to
Yeah.
it. We'll get into it in a minute.
But
yeah.
overall, I really enjoyed the movie. It's one of those things where you come out of the movie theater and you're not like jumping for joy by any means, and everybody's kind of like.
Oh yeah, I love
Whispering.
that. I want to see
Well,
that again.
and everybody's just like, I sat by 2 people that were sitting by themselves. Actually, I sat by like an older lady. She's probably in her 50s and 60s, which I thought was really weird for her to go to this random movie. I just would not think.
Well, Walking Phoenix. That's what we've
Yeah.
walked into a lot of people, a bunch of older people who are
Just
like, I'm kind of
old
curious about it
fan
because of
base, yeah.
Walking Phoenix.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Right.
He's,
or De Niro, and I'm like,
Yeah,
That's
De
an
Niro and
old.
Joaquin
That's an
Phoenix
older.
are-
Yeah, and then there's a guy that's probably in his 30s and 40s, and they both. I actually got it first, and they just both sat there and like were just dead quiet. So we had a really weird.
I
like,
think like for some
presence,
people like are
in the
probably
theater where it's
uncomfortable.
pretty quiet. That one guy that I really wanted to see who that person was, but he just laughed throughout the whole movie. I was like, okay, is the Joker in here like right now or what? Like what's going on?
Don't
So-
make that joke.
No, but there's like, well, I can't spoil
we'll
that.
get
But
to
anyways,
yeah. So closing like, okay, so I'll wrap this segment of it, and I'll move into spoiler. For me, as a movie, I think it's phenomenal. As a movie, I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think it's got great performances. Everyone gives their A game, even if they're not in it for long.
Right, like nobody was wasted. I think.
Yeah, I'm trying not to just reiterate what they say because I almost completely agree with them. I do think the journey from beginning to end is it's a tragedy.
Oh, yeah,
like,
no, and he
watching
even-
it, and there are moments throughout it, you're like, man, I just want to reach out and be like, it's gonna be okay, and like just talk to them
Yeah.
because that's all it needed. If he was just somebody was there for him,
Right, and they allude to that.
and so that was cool. I really did genuinely enjoy all of it.
Mm-hmm.
As a Joker movie.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I have to keep telling myself it's hard for me to separate. As a Joker movie, I don't know if I liked it.
Right.
Because, and that's the hard thing, and that's what we'll get to talking about in a minute. But as a movie, I think from start to finish, it's phenomenal. I do think there are a lot of great things about it. I do see the controversy behind it, because at first I was like, maybe it'll be over-exaggerated, but watching it, I'm like, no, I see.
I get it.
I get
there's
why.
definitely some serious friction between borderline kind of.
Glorifying violence and glorifying him, and I get it.
Right.
And that's, we'll talk about it more in a minute because I do think it needs to be addressed to an extent. But I do genuinely enjoy the movie.
Yeah.
And so I would give it a solid 8.5, maybe a 9. I would stick at
personally give it a
8.5,
9.
but it could go up.
It's one of my favorite films of the year.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best movies I've seen this year. I just don't know if...
It's really good.
Yeah, I would have to give it a 9 also. That's kind of what stuck in my head when I left the theater. But I mean, this movie is just if you don't like dark movies, don't see this movie.
It's not an easy watch.
It's definitely not.
It's gonna make you uncomfortable.
Yeah, and
even like the most hardcore moviegoers.
Yeah, I think the people that don't like a little bit of dark, they're like, this is just not a movie. You're gonna be upset throughout this movie.
I'll be honest. Maybe I'm weird. I didn't think it was like super uncomfortable, but I could our room, the theater
you
felt
could
uncomfortable.
You could feel the uncomfortableness.
The
in
movie
room,
itself might not make you uncomfortable, but the people around you are going to.
Yeah,
Which
Right.
I'll start. I'll talk about something in the spoiler section that happened. So, like I said, we'll quickly move into spoilers just after this. So, anybody listening, thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of our SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Music, iHeartRadio, anything like that. If you want to listen to us, please share us. Please share the Facebook page. Hopefully, we have plans for future 2020 because we've got a lot of busy stuff to do in this last part of 2019. So, 2020, we have some ideas.
Just to be fair, we're probably going to be in and out next few weeks just to be...
Yeah,
we're going to try to stay on top of it, but it's going to get kind of crazy, I think, with our schedule.
I think the next 2 weeks we should be fine. But after that, there will at least be 2 weeks where I'm gone, so you guys will have to figure something out.
Yeah.
We will work something out.
But anyway, so before we move into spoiler talk, I just wanted to throw that open and make sure that everyone had a chance to leave or stop listening. So
all right, so we're gonna count down from 5, and at that point, you're on your own. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so during the movie, I was so tense
Mm-hmm.
because of all the rumors and stuff on the internet about potential shootings.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember what the scene was, but Taylor grabbed my arm and I threw my popcorn off of my lap because I was just so there were people around us and there was this kind of shady-ish people behind us to the left.
Come on, guys.
And I was like, and then there were other people around us who someone would whisper and then one would get up and I was like, oh no.
No. Every time I saw someone doing anything, I just looked, and when the first gunshots are shot in the movie, I immediately just looked around. I was like,
well, the problem is I was like, when we were picking out our seats, I was like, we could sit at the top because we could see people more, or we could sit closer to the bottom so we could get away quicker.
I
actually
always sit in the middle of the screen.
Yeah, I know.
I sat at the very edge.
I sat at the edge, but I was like, so I had planned. I was like, I'll grab my popcorn, throw my drinks at them. That'll give us enough time to run. I was like, we're far enough away that some of us should make it out. But
some of us should make it out.
But that was in that moment though, I was so tense because of just
right. I was just on the edge of my seat because I didn't know.
And so as of today, which is Saturday after it came out, the day after it came out, LA had to shut down a few theaters because there were threats called in, and so
I heard that happened in Texas too.
I didn't think it would happen, but I was also man, I'm just so
I'm gonna be prepared.
I was I want to believe society's better than this. But I was like...
I mean, we literally just made a movie about the Joker.
Yeah, but I was like, I'm just on edge. The entire time, I'm
right, no, I understand.
I'm a little tense, and so watching it,
my entire theater was tense. Anytime anybody moved, we would just see people look at the other person.
You'd see all of our... I mean, there were maybe 40 people in my showing.
We had 15, so I was like, nobody's going to come into a theater with only 15. That's rookie numbers.
No, that's why we moved up to the 4 o'clock. Because the 7 o'clock is almost full.
Right, and I was like,
if you're going to do something, you'd wait till it's full there.
Yeah, I was like,
I'm
not dealing with this.
I figured if something was going to happen, it happened the early part of the movie. So I'm the first 20 minutes of the movie, I was way more tense.
Yeah.
Because as the movie went on, I slowed, I calmed down.
It was when they were on the train and he kills the guys. I was like, oh, this is when it's happening.
But, so this is, I guess let's talk about.
Let's talk about the actual movie.
So, the Waynes. This is a big thing that people want to talk about.
Yeah.
Regarding if they should be in it or not.
Okay, so for me, the one scene that I said that you should cut was the scene where Joker met with Bruce in front of the mansion. And the only reason I would cut that was because we know who Bruce Wayne is, and I think it means more to not have Joker meet him before, I guess, and seeing him gunned down.
I actually like that little interaction.
I think it's a cool moment.
Because Joker's always been obsessed with Batman before.
Yeah. I'd have two ways. So I agree both sides. His side, I agree with that. It shouldn't exist. But on your side, I could see the argument that I would make is that this is him meeting his brother. Because in that scene, he still thinks that Thomas is his dad.
Yeah, I guess
and
that's
so
true.
The reactions he has is I'm meeting my little brother.
Yeah.
Well, and he looks super sad in there or whatever, and he's in a weird way he puts a smile on his face.
Yeah.
But, like he actually
when
wants
he
him
puts
to
his
be
fingers
happy.
in his mouth and like
And he's like doing
he's
little
like, "That's better."
It was
magician
cool.
tricks.
It
so.
was cool to see that different version of Pennywise, or not Pennywise, Pennyworth.
Alfred
Yeah.
Pennyworth.
Just
Yeah.
for like a second to see like a burly man who's like, I mean, like they never said his name, but that's clearly who he's supposed to
I
be,
was like,
think.
that's clearly Alfred. Like
Um,
British accent guy comes up protecting Master Wayne.
Yeah, but we were talking, and I've reiterated this to a few people who've talked about some people are mad that Batman stuff is included at all, but I think if you don't include it, you glorify
Right.
the violence, and
And
so
I-
you have to show that one day, hey, Batman will rise up and stop
Yeah.
him.
Right.
Because,
I said you can cut all of this stuff out referencing Batman and make essentially the same movie, but I do agree that if you cut all of that out, then what is the point of this movie?
you have to canonically change the ending to that. It was
I
all
thought,
a dream.
I
think
thought
so.
I thought it was refreshing a little bit through all of that because you're kind of in the midst of
Right, 'cause-
like all this darkness, and you see for the people that are not a purist kind of
Right.
thing but recognize like want to see something, that connection,
Yeah.
just seeing that, and I love it because like Joker's obsessed with
Mhm.
Batman, right?
I'm under
Yeah.
the
You
belief.
see that first interaction, the first time they ever, and how they're all tied together.
Yeah.
Because if that wasn't the case, you wouldn't know how they were really tied together. Theoretically, I mean, you wouldn't. I
Yeah.
mean, so if they ever did anything else past this, which that's a conversation for later, maybe. But if they did anything past this, and this is actually really more of like something that they could move on with, on at least the origin kind of how they interacted. Then I mean, man, you've got a solid from the beginning.
Yeah,
And
I
you
guess that's
set,
true.
You set your DC universe for
Right. Well, and that's what
future.
we
so
talked
at that
about.
point-
I would love if this was the reboot to the DCEU.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, granted, Joaquin Phoenix is not going to do another one. He never does sequels. Todd Phillips is not going to do another one. But if you were like, hey, this is the world we've built, and then if this is where this is where it's going to get problematic though, because you're going to have to talk about that, like his ending where he kills Murray and there's the riots happening. That's the canonical ending.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Not that it could have potentially been a dream or his like
Right.
crazed state that he canonically caused
Did
all
all
this.
of that, yeah.
And did get captured. He's in Arkham, but there's still like riots
now.
going on. It's still like Joker gangs. But then you look at it like 15 years later, Batman rises up. So it's the villains creating the heroes.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
best thing about this is you get that connection and you see the rise of the Joker. If it's not a
Yeah.
dream, of course, which is whatever.
I don't
hope
think
it's
it
not
is.
a dream because then you can base it off of that. They can have a different actor do Joker because he'll age at least 15 years or whatever. And probably get away with it. And I mean, he's got makeup on the whole time anyway, so it's not like it's going to be that hard probably to cover up his new actor. And you have where this is how the Joker develops his whole thing. Obviously, he's not very smart intellectually.
At least at this point.
At this point, but I want to see that development of where
Right.
he starts scheming.
I think a
And
lot of people were
those
expecting
people-
that with this movie.
Well,
like they were like, "Oh, he's
the
gonna
car-
like get into crime,"
when
but
they
like, he
when
hasn't
the
really.
ambulance hits him or whatever, and they put his body on there and he rises, kind of thing. You start to feel this like momentum shift, right? And you go,
Right, and I was
he's
like-
starting to get empowered at this point, and so then you're like, okay, maybe
Well,
this is
people-
where that intellect kind of kicks
I-
in, and
I
you start
think-
taking advantage
I
of
think
these
what it
dudes,
is
basically.
This person is finally starting to get that attention that they crave.
Well,
Like-
and that's what the joke. It's a show. Everything's a show for the
Yeah,
Joker, or whatever.
right.
So it's in a way, it's a performance. Just and that's reflecting
Right.
off everything
I mean,
he
he
does.
dances on the hood of the car.
Well, yeah, and
Essentially.
that's showing his kind of crazy state of mind where he's so unstable that
Yeah.
everybody else sees him as a hero kind of thing because he's taking a stand, but it's not even about that for him.
Well,
No.
we talked about
Yeah.
there's so here's the thing with the Joker. The Joker is incredibly intelligent, but it's all for chaos. There's no he's not good or evil. It's just
Right.
chaos.
Yeah.
And so that's my problem with this version of the Joker is that it's revenge.
Yeah.
Every kill
Every
he did
kill-
is revenge.
You're like, this person kind of deserved what they had coming to them, in a way, which is
Every-
why it's hard to like this movie because it's almost like they're
so-
like you said,
not but
glorifying
it
him.
glorifies it, but I would also say it's not to the extent that like it glorifies it you should kill because like
So-
some of these people it's just like making
Yeah,
fun
some
of
of them
wanna-
they don't.
yeah.
Some of them do not deserve to die by any means.
Yeah,
Like,
and you can make an argument on any of
I don't
them
think
at
any
that
of them
point.
really deserved to die, but the
like
people
the guys
jumping
in the
on the
subway,
train,
yeah,
if you
no, like-
if you were jumping a person and they had a gun, you'd probably die. Like because I mean that's the first kills. It's in self-defense, but
Yeah.
then it progresses.
I like it, yeah, because
Yeah.
you show a progression. He's at the mental hospital or whatever.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're doing all. That's where you see he starts to get the taste of blood at that point.
Right.
It was
Right.
revenge because he had a good heart. He wanted good for people.
Yeah.
Originally, when he first started out in this movie, he
Right,
wanted
he's
something
like taking
good.
care of his
Exactly.
mom and all
So
this
then,
stuff. Like,
his
we haven't
mom.
even talked about that.
Yeah, and then his mom betrayed him. He starts going through all this, and then before you know it, he may have a good time period where he doesn't get to kill anybody or anything.
Yeah.
And then he starts to develop that unstableness in the mental facility where he's talking to all these other crazy.
Well, like at the very end, we see him like walking back to like his cell or whatever, and then you see like just the red footprints. I'm like, oh.
What if you started Batman 15 years later or whatever from that boy,
15, 20 years.
and then finally he breaks out of the mental asylum or whatever.
Yeah.
But he's already got all these goons around him or whatever.
Right.
They get him out of there obviously, and they find the rise of the Joker kind of comes out.
Yeah.
He's developed into this schemer where he's
Yeah.
been sitting there for 15 years building all this, and then he goes chaos. And see, you get the development from that.
Yeah.
You have this gap.
Yeah,
of
but
time.
hold on. So you're talking about hypothetical. I'm
Well,
talking
of
about
course,
this
yeah.
movie. Of course.
Yeah, this movie.
But it's built. But what I'm saying is,
But I
it
know
could build up.
I
Yeah,
agree,
yeah.
but I don't think they'll do anymore.
Well,
At least I we'll see.
I doubt
money
it.
talks, but I doubt Walking ever comes back. I will be surprised the day he announces Joker 2 with him, or that he's in Batman. I'll be
well,
surprised.
and the thing is, and that's what back to my original is that they could pick up something 15 years later, and that's the beginning of Batman, but it's still picking up from this original story.
But talking about this movie, even the ending where he's got the blood on his feet,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
could just be part of his dream.
Right.
We don't know it's real or not. That's the problem. And that's the thing. Like, so the first theory is that everything's real. So
Right.
take everything for it being real.
Mm-hmm.
You would have to go with his definitive turning point isn't after he kills them. I mean, it is. That's like the start. But the minute that people start glorifying his kill, which
Right.
we talked about, I think is like the most comic book thing. And that's why I think it's like a
Right.
really comic book thing.
Where, like,
It is
all
such
these,
a leap.
all these people are like, well, F them. Like, these three rich people who, like, think they can just throw their weight around. Screw them. Nobody's going to miss them.
Yeah, because normally, in reality,
That's
you'd be
what-
like,
that's what
you'd be
the
like
poor
Amanda
people-
Cloudmash just killed three kids.
That's what the poor are saying, but the rich, like, I love the dichotomy of that argument, though, because Thomas Wayne is on, like, TV talking about, no, this
Yeah.
person is wrong. And, like, all these other people who are being, like, treated like the scum of society are like, no, screw him. Like, his love interest literally says, nah, F him. Who cares? And it's not really his love interest.
Yeah, well, it's
but, like,
him.
Yeah, it's him.
But
in
like
his mind.
even like the newspapers, and this is what we talked about. Where
Yeah.
it gets weird.
It gets kind of weird.
Some of
like,
the newspapers are like
is he a
hero,
vigilante?
Some of them are like
Right.
murderer.
Mhm.
Which I was like, I really
Yeah.
like. That's where you have to give the suspension of disbelief for the comic book aspect,
Right.
because realistically, you're looking at what? Probably this is the 80s,
It's like
80s,
80s,
90s.
70s, maybe.
and like realistically, if somebody came and shot three young they're
Three
they're
young
in their
adults.
20s.
Yeah.
It'd be
Like
way
our
different.
age.
I really feel like that's where my suspension came in of like,
Right.
this is a comic book movie. We're telling a Joker origin movie. You're telling it from the point of where
Right.
if it is,
You have to keep in mind Gotham itself, like the situation that they're in.
which
like,
I get, and they're
Yeah,
and then
they-
the super rats and all
right,
that.
like they established that, like how bad things are,
Yeah.
and like how the rich in society don't really seem to care and are trying to fix the problem.
Yeah, except for Thomas. Thomas is the only
Thomas
one that
is, but,
is supposedly making an effort.
But even Thomas has a little bit of an edge to him in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, how did you feel about like his mom's subplot about Thomas Wayne? Like, because at some point I like when they were like, "Oh, that's your dad." I was like, I don't like this.
I have
And then-
mixed.
And then when you get to the point where it's like, "Oh no, she lied," like she's crazy. I
Well-
was like, okay, this makes more sense to me now.
Is she? Because at the end of the movie, he's holding the photo of her. On the back, it says TW.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
that's true.
So, and it doesn't show the father on the adoption papers either.
Mhm.
So what's to say that they didn't have the kid and she just
And
fully
he
adopted
made
him,
her
or-
look like she was crazy.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? That could be true.
But that's what we talked about. There's a lot of
Right,
different ways,
like-
and that's the thing that like it sucks.
That's
because
what I love about these movies at the same time because it makes you.
It's
think.
open.
it's a movie. It makes you talk about it.
Yeah, like I said, it was going to be a thought-provoking film.
Yeah, and then, but that's the thing of like, and that's why I like this mental illness, and this is what the
Yeah.
message is. Mental illness is not a black and white thing. It's something
Right.
that needs to be talked
I
about.
think the crux of the film is the argument on the talk show.
Yeah.
Right before he shoots Murray in the head.
Well, and he was like, if I was lying on it,
If
when
I was lying on
when
the
I'm
ground
lying on the street
dying-
dying, you would walk over me. But the minute
Right.
it's one of you guys, it's. But that's my problem too, because it glorifies.
Right, it justifies
Yeah.
what he's doing.
Yeah.
Or he's trying to justify his actions, and Robert De Niro's character fires back, and he's like, "No, you're just trying to excuse your actions. What you did is wrong, regardless." And like,
which is true.
Which is
Yeah.
like, and it's like, but then it turns, and he makes it personal with his character. And he's like, "Well, you brought me on here to make fun of me,"
Yeah.
and then he shoots him in the head, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like the violence in this movie, like we haven't even really talked about that a whole lot. Like it was super.
The scene
graphic.
where the midget guy in the
Can we say that word? Is that like PC? I don't know. Midget, little person.
Depends
I don't
on
know.
who you ask. A lot of them don't like the term midget.
Yeah, I know what you mean though. Like when he's like trying to
the
leave.
very small man and the very large man in the room.
Yeah, no. After he kills that guy,
and then he's like hiding in the corner or whatever.
I
It's
felt
like,
so bad for him. I was like,
the lock or
When
whatever,
he couldn't
the
reach the chain.
and then everybody in the theater's like, oh.
the person
"Oh."
next to me was like, he's not gonna kill this guy, is he? Like I hear him saying that, and I almost turned to him and I was like, oh no, this was his plan all along, because the first thing he does was he locked the chain to the door.
But he does that I think he did that every time I entered the house.
Sure, but I was just like,
Or the apartment.
I don't
But
remember
it was
catching it, but like,
it was premeditated.
Right,
that he was
like-
gonna kill him because he grabbed the scissors.
Well,
or
I
whatever
think he
before.
also thought, because they don't say who it is when he's knocking at the door, right? I think he also
Yeah.
had planned that it could have been the cops.
yeah. Oh, you know what? Like those cops, I guess, were kind of supporting characters too.
But I'm
Like,
like the same.
they
Like,
were really
what
weak.
was their name?
Else.
What was the name of the cops?
I don't remember.
Actually, I don't know if you can tell me anybody's name. Except for Murray and Thomas Lane.
Thomas, yeah.
The mom's name I don't think is mentioned a whole lot.
Penny is the
Yeah,
mom's
it's
name.
Penny.
But yeah, no.
What's that girl's name?
His love interest. I don't think they ever
Never
actually
say.
said her name, because
I don't know if I want to say
no,
it's a love interest.
I think that's
Well, to him
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
to him it is, and I think that's brilliant, because that scene after like he goes into her apartment and she's like, "What are you doing here?"
Her name is Sophie.
And it's just like you're kind of thinking in your head like, "Oh, she's been there with him this whole time, right?" Like because of that, just the way they portray it. But then like when she's like, "You need to get out," and it's like, "Well, this seems really weird considering that we saw that they're together." And then you piece it together that he's had made up this whole relationship in his head. And I'm like, they really dive into like somebody losing their mind.
Yeah,
Like there's different
that's
shots
why-
in the movies
Yeah.
and the movie throughout, like of just seeing all these empty pill bottles and stuff, and like him just strung out. And I'm like, this is intense. Like his psychiatrist was like, "You're already on 7 medications. Like how's one more gonna do anything for you or whatever?" And I'm
Also,
like,
shout out to Carl,
yeah.
played by Brian Tyree Henry. He's the Arkham Asylum clerk who he steals the paper from.
Yeah.
He's the dad in Spider-Verse, and he'll be in Eternals. I always really like him when he shows up.
Oh,
He's
yeah?
also the detective in Child's Play.
Hey, there you go. He was.
Yeah.
Man, what's with him and doing all these crazy R-rated movies?
Crazy movies. Crazy clown killing.
Well, like, Chucky's not really a clown, but he's a
doll.
doll.
It kind of, you could,
It's kind of similar. It's creepy.
They use sharp objects.
But man, like, when he killed his mom, that was when I got really uncomfortable. Because he even says the line, you mentioned it earlier in our non-spoiler talk about Joker's life being a tragedy. He's like, I
Yeah.
used to think my life was a tragedy, now I realize it's a comedy.
Well, yeah, and that's like the big thing from the trailers, and I was like,
Yeah.
hearing that and that. I do want to talk about my problem scene.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way you're going to be able to convince me otherwise. Some people are trying to tell me I was wrong. So when he dons the makeup,
Mhm.
dons the full Joker outfit,
Yeah.
hate the music. I hate it.
Really?
I mean, like, the song that plays, it makes me so mad, because it does not, I feel like it does not fit the tone. It's whatever it's an upbeat song, I can't even remember what it's called right now.
The one that's in the trailer?
No, it's not even from
They
the trailer.
replay it. They replay
um,
it several times throughout the movie too.
I think maybe the...
I should know the title.
I
Okay.
know, I feel bad.
So-
I had it memorized the other night. Cause
Oh,
we were gonna
the
talk
song
about
That's
it.
Life with, that they
Yeah.
play at, like, the end of the talk show by Bill...
It
or
plays like
by-
several times.
Oh, gosh, what's his name? This is going to drive me crazy now, because I literally just said
What'd
his
you say
name
it's called?
yesterday.
That's Life?
That's Life.
It is. It's by Frank Sinatra.
Frank Sinatra, that's it. Yeah, I think that they do that just to make you uneasy. Like, just to make you even more uneasy, because it clearly doesn't fit. And I think that's supposed to show you
Yeah.
like how on edge like you should be, because like he's full on the Joker now. He's no longer Arthur Fleck struggling with his medication and his mental problems. He's full on like Joker at this point.
Okay. So, do you think that Gotham is really truly responsible for the Joker because they actually canceled his counseling and his medication? His medication kept him kind of sane, right? So, do you think the Joker would have ever became the Joker
I think that's
if
what
the city didn't really,
I think
This
they're
could-
trying to allude to that, but again, I think it goes back to the scene right before he kills Murray, where he's like, "You're still responsible for your own actions." Like, granted, he's sick. Like, I get that. I sympathize with that. I know people who have mental illness, you know, but like they don't go around to make the decision to kill people. Like, because he was like, I don't remember correctly. Maybe I'm misremembering the order of the film, but I think he still has medicine by the time he's fired from his job, and that night that's the night where he kills the 3 men on the train. I want to say that he still had some medicine at that point. So
there's a scene where he's holding 3 of them, but they're empty.
Yeah.
And I think that came around there,
I
but
think
I don't know
I
if
think
he
that's
had
after.
any medication.
So I don't know. I don't think you.
No. He got fired before they cut off the medication before he got fired.
Okay. So he was
And
running
that's
out.
kind
by
of
that
where
point.
everything starts to go
Right.
Yeah,
downhill,
that's the
really.
moment where like it starts to change.
Right.
And that's the thing where like if it's not real, is that like where they just like, hey, we're gonna lower your medication you're taking, and maybe that's like because you gotta like start thinking about like
references, yeah.
Right.
But he feels like
or-
they just took his
yeah,
medication
or they're
away
like, hey, we're
because it's not
switching
strong.
doctors, and so his
I
body's
think
like, I'm
I think
losing my
on one
medication.
hand that's not really something I would agree with, just because like that'd be like saying, well, people who are on medication could potentially do that if they're not on it. Like I think that's kind of a tricky uphill, I guess. Like, how do you really argue that? I would say no. I would say that he created himself. Like, he could have tried to get help somewhere else, and he didn't. Like, I don't know. Like that's tough. Like, that's a tough question, and I think
Because I think it relates back to your real question on mental illness is, do we as a society need to be reaching out to people with this
Right.
and doing everything we can
I
about
think
cutting
this
these programs?
I think this movie's gonna raise more awareness for it. Like, unlike, how do we sympathize with this? How do we look into this more than we do into just, oh, we'll lock these people up and it's not a big deal. Like,
yeah, of making sure we're reintroducing them to society instead of just being like
just throw them out there, whatever.
yeah. Or you're throwing them into like jail or
Right. Like,
asylums. Being like,
I
hey,
think
we
the
need
movie.
to like work through these real
I think the
problems.
movie is making people more sympathetic to issues that people choose to ignore.
Yeah.
Kind of like what he said at the end. You would walk over me if I was lying in the street dying because, well, he's not all there. He's not worth anything to society, whatever. Like, we try to justify, like, who's valuable and who's not. Like, I think that there's two dual messages in this film where it's like, this person's clearly on edge. They're not okay. We don't need to care about them. And then we have the people who are like, no, we should, because this is the type of thing that these people are capable of doing when they're not properly taken care of. I don't know. Like, that's a tricky question, Ryan. That's probably one of the more deep questions I think we've tried to answer on this show.
I don't think there is just a clear answer for us to be able to
Yeah.
give, and so. But I think
Like,
it is one of those things that like, I think that's part of the movie is bringing awareness to it.
Right. I like, I've said it, I think 3 times now, thought-provoking film.
Yeah.
Like-
Regardless of if you like the movie or not,
Right.
it does raise questions.
It
on.
raises questions and
Yeah.
it gets you thinking, and I think that's the most important thing about this movie. Regardless of, oh, I like Batman, I like Joker, like I said, you could take all of that out and tweak the film in some areas and make essentially the same movie.
There's a lot of statements that you can look at.
Right.
Like, even when you're talking about the newspaper.
Yeah.
people,
The media, like, response to those type of things.
So what I was saying was like the newspaper, some of them, and whatever, if it's his mind saying that, or if it actually was like, but you have two complete opposite views.
I mean, like,
And it's kind of like how we see newspapers now.
Mhm.
It's like it's not necessarily just the facts. It's the reporting of that.
It's opinions.
It's more of an opinion kind of thing. And so, I mean, there's a lot of connections that you can make to the real world. And, I mean, it's good that people are recognizing that there are things, but see, when you live in the world, you never realize that there's a lot of those problems sometimes. But when you look at it from a different perspective into a movie, you're able to recognize those problems because you're analyzing the thing that you're not part of. So sometimes it's a good reflection piece.
Yeah, I'll give my closing spoiler thing thoughts, I guess. Overall, I do think I'm glad the movie had the Batman stuff, so it doesn't glorify the violence, so it doesn't cause that rise up. And that sounds stupid, but if it glorified the violence and it glorified, hey, he was right. He went back and killed people who wronged him in his past. Yeah. Instead of being well, he did, but he's in jail, or he's gonna be defeated one day. One day he will not get away with this. And so all your sins, all your problems, regardless of mental health or not, will come back and there will be consequences. Yeah. That's why, for me, I liked the Batman stuff, and that'd be my closing, spoiler thoughts on it.
Yeah. I can't really think of any...
Do you guys have any ideas on who actually killed the Wayne family? Or that one person that came out?
I think it's Joe Chill.
I would say, there's no reason to really change that.
Yeah, I think it's well, and the Keaton Batman, it's the same. It's Joe, but he works for Joker.
Well, actually, no. I always thought it was Joker that kills him.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, because he says, have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? And then he says that to Bruce later in the movie, and that causes him to remember his parents' killer.
Continuities have had Joe work for Joker, been under Joker.
Right. There's been so many different tellings of that story.
Yeah. And so I think it's him. I just think they're gonna. I was actually gonna say, instead of just being a robbery.
This is the one time in a Batman or comic book movie where I'm okay with them referring to the murder of the Waynes after 20, 30 different times.
Yeah,
now.
I mean the first time, of course, and then
right, the first time, but every movie since then where they've had Batman, they've always shown his parents died. I'm we get it. Bruce Wayne's parents died. But I agree with you with what you said completely about, showing that, reminds us that, hey, this is a comic book movie. Yeah. And this character gets his comeuppance. You just don't see it in this movie.
And maybe never see it. We may never see it, but...
Right, but, we know the Batman mythos. Yeah. And that's the major thing here. They took a mental health awareness thing, and they made a Batman film out of it. Yeah. And that to me is the most important thing. They took a topic that people are uncomfortable with and put it in a movie that they knew people were going to see, I think, to get people to talk about the issue at hand.
And this is such an interesting thing because you talk about the whole mental deal, but I mean, literally the last, or you go back to the Heath Ledger Joker, Dark Knight, when all the shooting, the shooting happened and all that, so...
Well, you talking about the shooter because of Joker?
Well, I'm not saying it was because of Joker, but I'm just saying, with it, the whole intensity of people not wanting to see the Dark Knight after the shooting and all that. I think it's interesting how that's all, kind of semi-connected with the violence and stuff, so, and how they kind of point out to more of a mental health awareness, whereas obviously none of the other Joker movies have done that, so. But other than that, that's really all I got.
Yeah, that's all we got. Yeah. So thanks for listening.
Yeah, sorry, it sounds like it's kind of ending on a somber note.
One day we'll release what happened.
Do we have any upcoming stuff that we want to kind of talk about? What do you have planned for next week or anything? Or?
El Camino will be next week. We'll have me and you. I guess we'll have a long discussion about that since Ryan hates Breaking Bad.
I don't hate Breaking Bad.
Well, anyway,
I never said anything bad about Breaking Bad.
This has been Nothing Coherent. I'm Zach.
You already said you were at the beginning of the podcast.
Why are you reintroducing yourself, dude?
I'm reintroducing myself to try to end it on a better note than just talking about sad things. That's life. Oh.
Okay. Well,
I don't know how to end it after.
Yeah, and I'll do that. What to do.
What a show. Goodbye, fellas.